And welcome back to the Sports Authority. As always, we welcome in the man, the myth, the legend. He is the skinny Richard Skinner, Local12.com's
More myth than legend. More myth than legend.
Well, it depends on the week, really.
Good point. That's a good point.
We're going to talk about Bengals and Reds. We'll start with the Bengals because the schedule release is here,
Yay.
which I think, in my own personal opinion, here's a hot take.
Yes.
The schedule release is a little overrated because we already know who they're going to play and where they're going to play.
Yes.
I mean, it's nice to know what order, but like...
And leaks come out.
Right.
I mean, I could have been one of those people that was nasty about doing it, and I didn't. I'm just going to leave it at that. You know, I gave it to you.
He's a man of the people,
I gave it to you early because you needed to do some things. I wanted to have it early so I could do some things, but oh well. It is crazy how big that has become. It really is.
What are your thoughts now, the schedule?
Yeah, it lays out interesting for sure. I mean, those first 6 games before the bye, you have to make some hay. There's no question. I did a column you can catch on Local12.com where I took kind of a look at the 3 easiest game stretch. I could have done 4, but I did in 3 easiest game stretch, 3 toughest game stretch. Boy, the bye comes at a good time, some flex games, and then kind of a prediction record. But those first 6 games, my easiest 3-game stretch is that stretch starting with the Rams in the Monday Night Football game and going through the next couple of weeks. And then Seattle at home, I didn't include, but I could have. But then you could argue that begins another tough stretch of games with a bye in between. You better go to the bye 4-2 at worst, 5-1 hopefully, potentially 6-0. You do that, you got to feel good about not just winning the North, but then if you want to put yourself in the conversation for the 1 seed. But if you're less than 4, if you're somehow 3-3 out of that first 6-game stretch, oh boy, you got an uphill climb.
And the last 2 years, we've seen them start off
and they've done a great job of rallying from that.
They rallied from it. You got to give them credit there. I was a little surprised, I think like a lot of people. I wasn't surprised that they didn't get the opener against Kansas City because that's Super Bowl, whatever. I'm surprised the Lions are playing in it, frankly. But I'm a little surprised that they're playing on the road to start the season in Cleveland. Were you at all surprised, and why do you think they did that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it looks like this is a year, and they've done this before. It's the first time since 2017 that they've opened and closed with the same team on the road. Second straight year they've opened with a divisional opponent. Last year was Pittsburgh. And my guess is last year they said, we'll give you a home game. This year, it's your turn for a road game. I think it feels like they're going back to that opening with divisional opponents when you can. That's not always a perfect scenario, but I think they've gone with that, and so I think for for tit for tat, they just say, hey, listen, you opened home last year, we're going to put you on the road this year. But overall, I think the favorable part is there's no more than 2 game stretch on the road or at home, so you're not having to worry about going 3 in a row. I think it's the Jets, isn't it, or the Giants? One of the two has like 7 of 8 on the road at one point, which is just insane. I think it's the Giants, 7 of 8 on the road at one point. That's crazy to me.
The rookies also 1-day rookie minicamp instead of the usual 3 or whatever they used to do.
Used to be a big deal.
Used to be a big deal. Now it's not. We saw the undrafted rookies. We saw the rookie draft class. Our first chance to really see them, get to talk to them. What were your takeaways?
Miles Murphy was in. So I was standing with a couple of people, and I'm just watching him, and I said, he looks like he's like 225 pounds. I don't mean that in a bad way. He just is so fit that you look at him and you're like, that's not a defensive end at all. That's not a big guy, but it is a big guy who's just in incredible shape. Listen, I know people made a big deal about Charlie Jones burst off the line and Miles Murphy. Listen, they did nothing. They literally did nothing. They did a few drills and stuff, but he looks the absolute part for sure. There's no question about that. I mean, meeting him in person in a suit, I even thought, well, he looks really in good shape, and then when you see him in a tapered uniform, it looked even better. So just from the look perspective, he looked the part.
You got to look the part walking off the bus before you can play.
Yes, you do.
Look good, feel good, play good. The undrafted rookies, not a lot stood out to me other than Bo Jackson's nephew, Shedrick Jackson, is there. Covered him at Hoover High School back in Birmingham, Alabama. Who is a guy you think that of the undrafted that may be able to make a little noise and play their way in?
So it's funny, and he wasn't there for this workout that day, was Jackson Kirkland, the offensive lineman from Washington. I mean, he was a big-time recruit, highly thought-of guy, was thought of at one point, I believe, the year before he came out in the draft as maybe being a first- or second-round pick, and then he slides out of it this year, some injury issues and other things. And then it was weird because then he wasn't there. I thought, well, maybe he didn't pass his physical because they didn't let those guys work out until they got their physical. They didn't give them their uniforms until they got their physical. And so the question at that point of the day was, is Jackson Kirkland coming in? They released those guys, the names later in the day. Jackson Kirkland was on there, but he was certainly one. And a guy that's just interesting because he's local is Matt Hippenhammer from Miami. So a long shot to do anything, but you never know. You impress enough, you get yourself on a practice squad. We've watched guys that hang around for a while and suddenly make it. You know, Trent Taylor's a great example of that. Now, he had played in the league before, but hey, Trent kind of hung around. They're like, tag, you're it. And there he is catching a 2-point conversion in the AFC Championship game in 21. There he is, the punt returner in the Super Bowl. There he is this year as the punt returner. So, you know, it's always cool to see those kind of local guys as well.
Practice squad checks clear like everybody
They
else's.
do.
And
not as much, but more than a lot of
But
us.
more than probably everyone in the studio right now.
Yes, that's a good point.
All
Combined.
right, let's switch gears to the Reds right now. Are you feeling any better? The Reds on a little bit of a hot streak. They're starting to come around, and I think they need to rename themselves the Cincinnati Jake Fraley's because he's the one that's been powering them.
Although today he could have come through. I mean,
even Aaron Judge goes over 3 sometimes.
You can't do it every day. That's a fact. No, I don't know about feeling better. I will say this: there's only like 2 teams and it feels like in the National League that just dominate right now, and the Dodgers are starting to do that, and obviously the Braves are that. But everybody else feels meh, and that's fine. You know, especially in this division. For a while, Pittsburgh was running away with it, and you see them start to come to the back. Milwaukee, we've seen that. Chicago, I don't think they're good. St. Louis is the scary one from the bottom, starting to play better. But yeah, and especially with what the Big Four are doing down in the minor leagues. Pitcher Andrew Abbott, Ellie De La Cruz, Matt McClain, and Christian Encarnacion-Strand. At what point do we get to see them, and how much of an impact might they make? And at what point, while this was not a season to go, hey, we got to do some things to win, could you, though, inside and internally do some things to help yourself win? I think it's got a chance to be more fun than I thought it was going to be, especially if these kids come up at some point. I don't need it to be tomorrow, but it's got to be some point soon enough, and they give you a boost. I can only imagine what that does for that clubhouse and the guys that are still there, too. And listen, it's been way more fun than I thought it was going to be.
That's my next question, because I saw your column on local12.com/sports about, hey, it might be time to call these guys up. I'm the same thing. The first 2 weeks are the only thing when it comes to service time, so that's gone. There is no real advantage.
The Super Two's close.
Right, unless you think that they're not ready. But, I mean, it's every day we're seeing De La Cruz pop out and send one 400 feet.
So I didn't see
Matt McClain just keeps raking. I mean, these guys seem like they're ready. They're torching AAA. What more do they got to do?
I talked to a buddy of mine who said, I didn't see the home run. He said, De La Cruz literally hit a pop-up. And he cursed. You could hear him curse. He was not happy with how he hit it. It was to the opposite field. And all of a sudden it goes out of the ballpark. Think about that kind of power. He hit 3 balls that were faster than any major leaguers hit a ball this season in one game on Tuesday night, hitting a home run from both sides of the plate. And listen, again, they know their business way, even though we all can criticize and we argue and we don't like.
This is a sports talk show. We got to talk about something.
We do. You're right. No, and we're all kind of surmising this stuff. I don't know what I don't know what the right time is, but by golly, it's got to be darn close. And the only thing that could do a little bit of this is the Super 2 conversation, where, not to get too deep in the weeds, it's a matter of service time there as well to when they can get arbitration. But if these guys are as good as they turn out to be, they're buying those arbitration years out.
Oh, yeah,
they're buying those free agency years out. They just did it with Hunter Green, really on not a lot of sample size, and they did it with Hunter Green. If these dudes come up and rake, they're going to buy them out for sure. So I don't even think that's a matter of it. I think, to their credit, they're going to make sure on top of sure that these guys are ready. I mean, Christian Encarnacion-Strand's only walked 1 time. That is a bit of an issue. But you know what? If you look at his numbers on every level in the minors and go back to his year at Oklahoma State, that dude's done nothing but rake. It's a matter of he doesn't walk. He strikes out a bunch, but when he puts it in play, he hits 330 with 1,000+ OPS. Sign me up for that dude.
You can tell Skinny's excited all of a sudden from the beginning of the year. And all of a sudden, it is exciting.
I was a Debbie Downer, man. I'm sorry.
Are you surprised at all? The Luis Cessa experiment is now over. He's been released. I thought for sure they were going to give him a chance to start. He obviously historically bad starting, didn't work. Put him back in the pen. He's been a really solid reliever for this team since they got him from the Yankees. And I guess, I don't know if there's more to it than that, but they just said, we're good. We're not even going to give you a chance. You're out.
The only thing I can think of is that he might have asked for that, and they complied. And they said, okay, listen, if you want to test the market and see if somebody picks you up, we'll go for it. I think we're close to that stage where he's either going to have to take the Louisville assignment or
he was outright released today.
There you go. So, yeah, it was today. So, yes, I was, because I thought, listen, he did them a solid by getting a chance to start. And it didn't work. And it worked last year, but didn't work this year. But he was always damn good out of the bullpen. And I don't think he lost it because he suddenly became a starter. I just think it didn't work as him as a starter. So, yes, to answer your question, I am really surprised, especially when we're back in that churn of bullpen guys at the moment of 2 guys up and 2 guys down, and this guy hurt and that guy up. And trust me, when you look at some of those Louisville numbers, they ain't really good.